Hi, and welcome back to Scratch. Today, we're going to make a big steak omelet. If you'd like to support the channel, please like and share this recipe. For this, we'll need 8 eggs, 1 to 2 russet potatoes, a half pound of flank steak, a Roma tomato, 1 cup shredded cheddar cheese, 2 tablespoons of flour, a tablespoon of butter, 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil, a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of pepper, a half teaspoon of paprika, half of a bell pepper, half of a yellow onion, a quarter teaspoon of baking powder, 4 ounces of white button mushrooms, and some cooking spray. We'll start by rinsing our potatoes, mushrooms, bell pepper, and tomato in the sink. Next, we'll julienne our potatoes, 2 1/8 of an inch thick. I'm going to be using a mandolin to make this process easier. Once julienned, we'll transfer our potatoes to a bowl. Then, we'll peel and dice our onion, reserving the other half of our onion for another recipe, and core, seed, and dice our bell pepper, reserving the other half for another recipe. We'll put our bell pepper and onion in the same bowl and reserve them to mix with the eggs later. Once we've prepared the onion and bell pepper, we'll thinly slice our mushrooms. After we prepare our mushrooms, we'll quarter, seed, then dice the tomato. You'll notice I'm using a spoon to seed the tomato. It's easier to use for this purpose than a paring knife. Once we finish slicing our vegetables, we'll heat an 8-inch skillet on the stovetop over medium-high heat and season our flank steak with a half teaspoon salt, half teaspoon pepper, and a half teaspoon of paprika before rubbing it with our 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil. Once our pan has come up to temperature, we'll cook our flank steak for 3 minutes on each side. Once the steak is finished cooking, we'll allow it to rest while we make our hash browns and sauté our mushrooms. After we've cooked our steak, we'll leave our stovetop on medium-high and melt half of our tablespoon of butter. While the butter's melting, we'll mix a tablespoon of flour and a quarter teaspoon each of salt and pepper with our julienne potatoes. Then we'll add them to our pan and allow them to cook for 7 minutes, stirring occasionally until they're golden brown, cooking in batches if necessary. Once our hash browns have finished, we'll melt our remaining half tablespoon of butter and sauté our mushrooms for about 3 minutes. While the mushrooms are sautéing, we'll go ahead and slice our steak. We'll cut it into thirds and then cut it into small slices against the grain so it remains tender. After slicing the flank steak, the mushrooms should be done. We'll remove them from the heat and set them aside to use as filling for our omelet. Once we've finished sautéing our mushrooms, we'll reduce the heat on our stovetop to medium and begin to prepare our omelet mixture. We'll beat together our 8 eggs, remaining tablespoon of flour, quarter teaspoon of baking powder, and remaining quarter teaspoons of salt and pepper until our egg mixture is smooth and free of lumps. Then, we'll stir in our onion and bell peppers. Once we've prepared our egg mixture, we'll spray our pan with cooking spray, pour half of the egg mixture into the pan, and allow our omelet to cook most of the way through before adding our filling, about 4 minutes. Once our omelet's mostly solid, we'll add half of our steak mixture, a quarter of our hash browns, half of our cheese, half of our tomatoes, and half of our mushrooms, before folding it in half and allowing it to cook for an additional minute before transferring it to a plate. This recipe should make 2 egg omelets. We'll serve these alongside our remaining hash browns. And remember, if you like the content, please subscribe.